Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the episode 36 of the Masters Muscle Podcast. Whole new year. Hopefully, everybody is kicking it off with a bang. Before we get into our guest of the evening, Vinny, give us a quick update of the Golden Bachelor. Some of us saw you on the show, but give us the highs and lows, my friend.
It was great to travel with my family. We all had a great time. And, it was so surreal to, being behind the camera to see how the TV show was being all put together. And then even you guys didn't see this, but like Gary was walking down the aisle, got to the altar, and they said cut. And he had to walk back down and then do it all over again.
What?
So we saw things like that. And
God.
yeah, it was pretty cool. Gary's family is amazing. His daughters and son-in-laws were just great people. And thank God my family and his family got along really well. So it's
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
Are they Italian too, Vinny, or?
No, I don't. They have a mix of different stuff. I don't know. They're not Italian.
Okay.
Definitely not Italian.
Okay.
So
who's our guest of the evening, Vinny?
Scott Appelbaum. Scott and I know, Scott, how long we go back? Like 99, 98?
Yeah. Quite a while. Yeah.
Quite a while. And Scott, I know that you started your bodybuilding career back in '87, coming in second in the Staten Island.
Yeah.
And Scott and I met through the Apex Nutrition program, NASM.
Yeah.
And I was just getting my feet wet, getting involved with personal training on a little different level with nutrition. And I got hired to run the nutrition program for Gold's Gym in Stamford, Connecticut. And I remember getting certified through them and with Lenny Parasino, Scott. And
yes, Lenny. Wow.
Yeah, long time ago. He was, I think, a former Mr. USA competitor, winner.
Great bodybuilder. Great bodybuilder.
Yeah. And I shortly, my stint there was short-lived. I realized I did not want to sit behind a desk and write programs. It wasn't for me. I was too antsy. I needed to be on the gym floor and train people. So I'm glad I at least tried it and went that route. But doing the Apex programs, the nutrition programs wasn't for me. And Scott and I have developed a relationship over the years where it's a mutual respect for what basically he knows. Because whenever I think about like, hey, I want to learn something new or pick somebody's brain, Scott's probably one of the top 3 people that I go to. And Scott, so a lot of people don't know this, when I made my comeback, I was lost. I was coming back from having 14 anchors throughout both my shoulders. And I hadn't trained in like really 3 years. It was really difficult for me to get back on track. And Scott basically paved the way for me and just put me on a nice plan. And it was funny because we butt heads a little bit in the beginning because I wasn't the guy to follow an app or anything. And he had me follow what was the name of it? The nutrition app that you
.fit, which was where Apex kind of evolved to, being web-based.
Yeah, and I'm not a guy who counts calories or anything. And this was all like, I don't want to do this. Just give me a diet. Just tell me to eat a potato. I didn't care. And so it was a rough road in 18 or so. I took dead last in the Masters Pittsburgh. Baltimore Pro. And then, but what we talked about evolved, and we'll talk about it through the podcast. So Scott, thank you so much for coming. And
thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I wanted to do this for a while because I think like you and I talk on the phone a lot.
Yes.
And you had said you're an outlier in the sense of what you do, how you bring your nutrition to another level, even in the off season. And let's start with that. Let's start with your off season, and we'll go backwards a little bit to how you started your career.
Well, I feel, especially being in an advanced age as we are, is that you do not let your body get too heavy. Why? And one of the reasons that always I've thought about is that the elasticity of an older person's skin is not like a younger person's skin. And if we're going to be on stage again, which, I knew I would be, you got to keep it tight. You know what I mean? And not letting yourself, and it's really a fallacy. You know, everybody goes, oh, bulking up. And because if you want to talk science, you don't need that many calories above your maintenance to build muscle. But people say they think they do, and it gives them an excuse to overeat, you know?
Absolutely. Because like at the end, like when you look at your physique off season and you look at your physique, say a week out from a contest, size wise, there's really not much difference except if you let yourself go too much and where you collect your body fat.
Yeah.
So for most men, it's usually around the stomach. And I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I had this skin issue too when we first started talking a couple of years ago, around my belly button. I was like, where'd this come from? And then as I've stayed kind of leaner in my off seasons now, that has diminished quite a bit. So I'm firsthand, I understand what you're talking about.
You can think about it as a rubber band, you know, a brand new rubber band. It snaps right back. But keep pulling that rubber band, opening and closing. It starts to get loose, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens with skin.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, I first saw you earlier in the year at the Triumph in Florida, and you nailed your condition. And I was like, wow, I don't know if you could get any better. And then when you showed up in the universe in Teaneck, you brought another level of conditioning.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I was so amped up knowing what you look like at the NPC Triumph in Florida. And then you show up at the universe and I'm like, holy shit, how did you freaking pull that off? And what did you do to improve an already, I would say, like very peaked, perfect condition?
Well, you know what? That's why a warm-up show, if you will, is important, especially when you don't compete like every single year. Because I hadn't competed since 2018, you know. And you know, one of the things that I didn't do, and I took it for granted, and you and I talked about it, is first, I know how to pose, but I didn't practice my posing. And from the day after the Triumph, I posed every single day in the posing room after my workout for at least 30 minutes, you know? And I looked at the pictures, I analyzed myself from the Triumph, and I said, yeah, I was in really great condition, but you know what? I think I was a little bit over dieted, okay? So I was able to increase my calories slightly, pull back my cardio, and it actually helped my condition, and I actually was fuller. So that's why I feel doing a show like a warm-up show, which is what I did, I was able to take those little things, make those little changes, which had a predominantly great effect on the way I look, you know?
Yeah, because what happens a lot of times when people are in shape like that and they go into another show 3 or 4 weeks later, they forget they're already in shape and they diet even harder. Where you analyzed it and realized I need to eat a little bit more and just fill the physique out a little bit.
And honestly, there was parts of my body that got leaner from that, you know, because what it takes to get you somewhere is not necessarily what it takes to keep you there.
Oh, absolutely. So did you increase your carbohydrate intake or protein intake or both?
A little bit of both. Yeah.
So what was your thought process in saying, okay, you said you were flat, which I didn't think you were flat in the NPC.
Well, you know what? One of the things I took from you, what kept me full, is you made a suggestion again, and I learned from everybody as well. He said, try, because you're competing in 4 divisions, Scott, and you know, if they keep you up on stage, you're going to flatten out a little bit. Dates. So I bought a shitload of the whole dates.
The mental dates.
Yeah, those worked perfect because I don't like to eat anything that's going to fill my stomach up. These did not, because they're very small, but they basically just filled me back out, and literally like that, because I would go from one class to another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, from posing, you tend to get a little bit flat, and it did not happen at the universe. You know, it's kept getting.
But between both shows, the weeks wise, did you add the mental dates in your diet?
No. My post-workout meal increased, and the meal after that, I increased my carbohydrates and slightly my protein. That's what I did, and I cut back my cardio by 10 minutes per session.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So Scott, you mentioned you hadn't competed since 18. What made you come back?
The universe. I was going to be 60, and I wanted my pro card.
Okay.
Because in 18, I competed here in Florida and won the Prestige Cup, Masters. That's when they had a Masters overall back then, and I won the Open. And then the following week, I went up to New Jersey and competed in the Muscle Beach Jason show and won the Masters there. Won Classic I won everything overall for bodybuilding Classic and Masters overall and Classic.
Jeez, okay.
And my wife said, "Well, Scott, you just won 2 overall titles. You won the Masters, you won the Open, you won the Classic, and both. What else is there to prove?" And in the back of my head, I'm like, I want that pro card. And what happened was I was starting to shoot for the North Americans, which because that's just in the summer, and my immune system was really compromised by competing in 2 shows and dieting, Yeah. And I developed shingles.
Oh, okay.
Because it was about 4 to 6 weeks, I think, between both, and I think 2 or 3 weeks after the Muscle Beach, when I was still kept prepping and didn't tell my wife, I woke up and I'm like, I felt this nerve pain in my back. It was short lived, but it kept me out. It did keep me out.
Okay. What, did it spread all over your back?
No, I was able. I use essential oils, and it kind of zapped it. The nerve pain kind of didn't go away for a while, and it kind of made me like it was kind of like really fatigued me, but it never bubbled up like externally. There was no symptoms.
Gotcha. So let's go back to 1987.
Yeah.
And you're doing your first contest.
Yeah.
And how has your diet and training evolved from 87 to now? So you were in your 20s, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now you're 60. Talk us through learning the curve in the sense of what to do and what not to do as the years go on, and like what were the changes?
Just to step back a little before that, my whole desire, I wrestled in high school and college, and when I was wrestling, there was no weight restrictions, meaning that the coach said, "I want you at this weight, and I want you to lose that weight," and because you're going against a team, and they wanted you to match up against a guy, and I used to be the master of weight loss. My coach said, "I want you at 112 pounds," when I was a junior. You know what I mean? And I said, "Well, I got to be able to be strong on the mat." I said, "So I can't lose my strength or any of my muscle. I got to lose just excess fat." And that was where the whole thought process of and passion for body composition really started, And when I went to college, I was studying nutrition, exercise science. So that's where the basis of my knowledge was when it came to, to both training and nutrition. So I used those basic principles, but at the same time, you know what? I hate to use I guess when you really apply stuff, it doesn't work the way it works in a book or a lab.
Yep.
It's just different. And I realized then that different foods and different, affect people differently. So I had to go through a learning curve of my own body.
Yeah, we all have, right? But
I didn't know what would work and what didn't. You know what I mean? And what I'll tell you, the one thing that I do different now versus then, it's incredible. And if you remember, back in the 80s, I cut water on Thursday.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was eating, drinking distilled water. This is my first show. When I cut water on Thursday, and everything I ate was low sodium. Everything. Okay. You take this full circle to 2023. I didn't stop drinking at all. And my sodium was super, super high. So it was the antithesis. You know what I mean? Talk about going from one end of the spectrum to the other,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We've all experienced the same stuff. We came up in the same era. And I remember the same thing, drinking distilled water, cutting water out Thursday and trying to find Kansas.
And you say to yourself, why am I, you say, you know what it's the science is, how can I carb up without water? It's just going to sit in my gut.
But that's the way it was back then.
Yeah.
And everybody believed, it was funny because it's what we believed the pros were doing, and it wasn't the case at all. Because I remember talking to John Natashak when he was training for the 87 the 84 nationals and the 87 Night of the Champions. And I got the chance to be in the same gym with him. And I remember him talking about drinking a lot of water and adding sodium to the diet. And we were like, what? You're adding sodium? And then guys were like, well, let me sodium deplete and then I'll sodium load. And they went, there was all that little mishap of physiques looking like they were phenomenal. And then they look horrible day to show because now you're holding a ton of water because you're overloaded.
Yeah. Two things. One, I see John every single day at the gym,
Oh, yeah.
He trains people at Redcon, In fact, he's promoting his own pro show this year.
Yeah.
A 212. But the funny thing is that, load and deplete. The body doesn't like extremes. You know what I mean? It doesn't. People talk to me about blood pressure and high blood pressure, and I always say to myself, people, when you train, you raise your blood pressure, and someone takes a pre-workout, which is artificial raising their blood pressure, but you don't see too many people dying in the gym. You know what I mean? Of a stroke. Mm-hmm. The reason being is because they die in their sleep. And this is just a fact, is that the blood pressure is so high and when it's the lowest, when they're sleeping. So the delta, the significant change is what the body doesn't like. And that's what occurs.
Oh, interesting.
So the body does not like, significant, pendulum swinging from one end to the other,
And that also goes back to the big thing today is the peak week. And I try to explain to a lot of competitors that being in shape is the goal before the contest, 2-3 weeks out, and coasting in.
Yes.
And not manipulating anything. So that way there's no setbacks and holding water or over carbing. As long as you're just on a nice steady pace, trying to be 10% better usually backfires, looking 30% worse. And I see people doing that all the time. I tell my competitors, you're going to go backstage and you're going to see people doing some wacky things. They're going to be eating foods that were never on their diet for the last 12 weeks.
Yeah. And
they're adding it in, and you're going to just bring your meal, and you're going to have your dates in between each, category, and we're gonna figure all that out as the time goes on, because you never know when the show is going to start, and you're trying to time everything.
Yes.
And then some of my competitors will be like, "Am I doing something wrong?" I'm like, "No, you're not doing anything wrong. You look amazing. Let's just stay on track and stay calm." I think that's another thing, like that we've learned. And you are very calm. I'm very calm behind stage, and you see too many people get wound up and get all nervous and like, what is that guy doing? What's that girl doing?
Cortisol is rising. It's rising.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big thing. So
what's funny? Talk about behind stage. I see, and Vinny, you've seen it hundreds of times. They'll put a rice cake with peanut butter. Like, I never understood that, because the peanut butter is going to slow the absorption of that carbohydrate. So why are you putting the fat in there? It makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Everybody's doing it.
No. And then you see people swallowing gummy bears and Skittles and glasses of wine. And
yes,
a lot of people even drink Jack Daniels backstage for the vascularity. I'm like, if you didn't eat enough you didn't do your homework, you're not going to have vascularity now.
Yeah.
And it's just like excuses just to I don't know. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. You haven't eaten this food for 16 weeks and now you're introducing it? Come on.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Scott, do you even have an off season? I was looking at your pictures. Do you even have an off season?
I stay in good shape because I like to feel and look good. Plus, at an age of 60, the other part of what I really am involved in is really wellness and staying healthy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like when people come to me and they want to change their body or they want to compete, I give them what they want, but I actually get them what they need. Meaning, what is the right foods to eat within the foods you're eating? You know what I mean? Like, example, I make everybody eat organic rice. Why? Well, rice is grown in paddies, and there's usually a lot of runoffs from streams and rivers, which have a lot of toxins and heavy metals in there. So if you're going to have rice and you're going to have it every single day, make sure it's organic.
Absolutely.
Blueberries. Okay. Any berry needs to be organic, because the amount of herbicides and pesticides that are sprayed on berries it's unbelievable. And if you're going to eat them every day, it should be organic, you know, just for health purposes, you know.
So you a grass-fed person too then, going that route?
Grass-fed beef, grass-fed, grass-finished. Absolutely.
Yeah, I get all my food from Trader Joe's. Make sure everything's all organic.
Yeah.
Grass-fed.
Yeah.
And what I think I tell people, I said, listen, I'm going to help you navigate the food industry maze because, you know, marketing sometimes confuses people, you know?
So with that being said, talk us through pasteurized, organic. Like there's so many words that are thrown out.
Like eggs, for example. Pasture raised eggs are what we should eat. Why? Because the chickens were made to what? Graze in a pasture. And any pasture raised egg, and quite honestly, I get my eggs from a woman on a farm. And I get my eggs every single week from her, which is lucky. You know, I see the hens roaming around, you know. But pasture raised eggs are the chickens are foraging around eating worms and grass and whatever is around there, you know, versus the people they market vegetarian fed. Well, if it's eating a little small bug or lizard, it's not being vegetarian fed, and that's what it should eat. Number one, cage free doesn't mean any. It's a marketing term. So is free range. They're still kept in a coop. The only time a chicken is indoors is at night, so that the vultures don't get them. You know what I mean? That's it.
So pasteurized is the way to go.
Pasture raised.
Pasture raised.
Yes. And it's funny, when I pick up my eggs, they sit on my counter. There's no need for them to be refrigerated. But I goes, why? I go, well, when the hen lays the egg, it just sits out. It sits outside, right? It doesn't go bad. And they're like, yeah, you're right.
You're right. I never thought of that.
Well, Scott, I had read, Scott, and confirm or deny that, yes, leave them out, but the minute you wash them, you're taking off whatever protective membrane, then you stick
That's
them in
true.
the
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But when you think about it, it's the same thing with butter, right?
Yeah.
Like when I grew up in my house, butter wasn't in the refrigerator. It was in the cabinet, you know?
So let's talk about eggs for a second, because there's so much debate on that.
Yeah.
How many yolks would you eat in a sitting?
6.
You would eat 6 in one, like 6 whole eggs.
6 whole eggs. That's every day for me.
And when you do that, are you eating a carbohydrate with it?
Right now I am. Because again, it all gets back to the goal. My goal now is I'm maintaining. So I'm not looking to lose body fat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times when I'm working with competitors and people who can lose body fat, need to be in a deficit in order to enhance that. And they'll have a low fat protein with a carbohydrate or a high fat protein with like a fibrous carbohydrate, and that's it. But
if you're eating 6 eggs and let's say a cup of rice,
that's exactly what I have in the morning. Exactly.
Okay. So now let's say, okay, now I want to switch to pre-contest diet. Do you lower the yolks down?
No, for me, in the morning, yes. Post-workout meal, yes, because I want those carbs. Maybe I'll have egg whites, or I'll even have steak. Like I have a flat iron steak in the morning. You know, and sometimes it's egg whites, but I lately haven't been in the mood for egg whites, so it's not something that's in my mind to actually mention. But yes,
Gotcha. So you manipulate it around the workout.
Well, yeah, because that post-workout meal is important. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be eating it right at the gym, but that's when the carbohydrates are going to be, the cells are going to be ready to accept it. You know.
So Scott, for you personally, are you more of a higher carb, lower protein, vice versa? Like, what do you generally daily?
I function a little bit better on a little bit higher fat, moderate carbohydrate, but carbs, there's nothing wrong with them. You know what I mean? But the thing that the public needs to understand is that carbs have been vilified, okay? We have 3 food groups: protein, carbs, and fats, right? Okay? Now, 2 things. 1, protein, you need to give yourself several feedings throughout the entire day. Why? Because you don't store it. So you know what? 2, fats, they're what? Essential, which means you need to get them in a diet. The third one, and this is for most people, when I talk about athletes or high-level bodybuilders who need more carbohydrates, the public doesn't need that much carbohydrates. Why? They're not moving that much.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a very sedentary society. So the need for carbohydrates, which main function is to provide energy, is not as it was years ago when we lived in an agricultural society, when we were out on the farm working all day. But of course, I have a guy that's a construction worker. His carbohydrate level is going to be higher. It just is. His overall calories are going to be higher because his energy expenditure is going to be higher.
Yep.
So it's funny. I work with some male physique guys, right? And I'm getting this guy ready for a show. And I remember because we had with 2 shows within about 8 months. First show, he was sitting around doing nothing. So he's doing 2 sessions of cardio a day. The second show, again, every prep is different. We had to do 1 session a day. Why? He was working for Amazon delivering. So he was in and out of that truck all day long moving. There wasn't the need for the extra cardio, you know? So what the conditions are different. The prep is different, you know?
Throughout the years, how has your mindset evolved into thinking the way you think? Like as we were talking earlier about sodium and distilled water and all that stuff, when did you start to think like, hey, wait, I'm going to start listening to my body, not start listening. I'm going to stop listening to what the bodybuilding society is saying, because it's completely different, because every physique and everybody's body is completely different.
Yes. I actually did it, starting in 1988, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I look good, my first show. But then I'm like, this is not the way it's going to work. So I am going to be my own test tube. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I gotta go with like what feels good. You know what I mean? I'm a very analytical person. So if how when I'm eating something, how is it going to affect the way I look? How is it going to affect my energy level? And again, there are certain people who could eat a sweet potato and they get a massive rise in blood sugar, but then when they eat rice, nothing, and vice versa. So we are all totally individuals, and so but people don't like. You have to I'm very analytical. How foods affect the way I feel and look. That's the key. To me, that's the key.
Absolutely. Because I feel personally like I do very well with white rice.
So do I.
And cream of rice and sweet potatoes. And the one thing that happens with me is that I know personally, like, I can't veer away from the diet too much in the off season, because every time I start to clean it up, once in a blue moon, the first 2 to 3 weeks, my sugar level just crashes. And I have these horrible sweats and I have to go, I can't shovel food down my throat fast enough. So I've learned from you, try to stay as close to possible with eating close to your contest diet as the best you can. I'm nothing like you.
Well, no, the foods give you good energy. They affect, you're eating more of them, but those are the foods that work for you,
I went with my own advice, which I've developed in the gym because of my shoulders. I only focus on what I can do, not what I can't do.
100%. And if I could just break in 1 second. So people tell me, hey, Scott, I see you do this blah, blah, blah exercise. I'm like, yeah. They go, when I do it and hurts, I go, don't do it.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah. So I just took the same advice with food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just eat a lot more of it in the off season. And I know how to get in shape. I know how long it takes.
And it also probably makes you feel good. You feel good.
What do you mean?
Physically, you feel good. It produces good energy. You don't feel logged down, because some of those other foods don't agree with you.
It took me a while, because I would go to the gym and I would train with my training partner last year, this guy Juan, and I would say, I don't know what's going on with my gut. Something's wrong with my stomach every time I eat this meal. And it turned out that I think I'm allergic to ground turkey, because every time I would eat ground turkey from Purdue, horrible feeling in my stomach. When I switched over to organic ground turkey from over at Trader Joe's, the pain went away.
Well, you were eating what the turkey was eating, a GMO feed. When you go to organic turkey, that turkey is grazing, and any supplemental feed is non-GMO and organic. There it is right there, which is what I try to get across to people. And they're like, chicken is chicken. Turkey, I go, no, it's not. Because we are being bombarded with genetically modified food, and it's affecting our guts. That everybody goes, gut health is like the hottest thing now. I go, no. You have to understand, in 1975, we ate about 17% processed foods. And again, those processed foods were not as ultra processed as they are today. We're eating about 57% processed foods now, and they're much more, even more intensely processed. So of course it's going to affect your gut. Plus GMOs, none in 1975.
Yeah.
But look, your body doesn't recognize because it's genetically modified. That's the truth. I mean, I'll give things. My wife was in Italy. Okay. She can't eat pasta here in the United States because she gets bloated. Italy, nothing.
Yep. I experienced the same thing when I was in Romania. I had no stomach issues the week and a half I was there because I was eating the proteins from their stores, which
all organic, all free range, all
free range, all organic. There's no such thing as organic over there. It's just organic. So I experienced that. Like, wow, the amount of additives are like minute compared to what is put in our food here, and I agree with you.
It's funny, and this is nothing really to be political, but there are people that live here in the United States who have traveled overseas, and they are now thinking about leaving the country, and a country that they loved, because in some of these other countries the border is closed and the food's better. Yeah. It's not for any other reason than that. That's really not political. It's just you feel your life is better. That's all.
Yeah, food is way better overseas by a long shot. I experienced it the first time when I went to Poland, and I see these guys we're training with we were there for the FIBO. I was with Universal Nutrition. We were with the FIBO for about a week, and then a week in Poland, and I'm seeing these guys, all these Polish guys, eating out whatever they wanted, and every day they were looking amazing. I'm like, how are you looking amazing? Some of you are going off your diet, and because the food's not processed.
It's funny, talk about Poland. Kevin Levrone, his supplement company is based out of there. That's where the headquarters are. And he talked about how possibly that would be a place he would relocate because their borders are closed. You can't get in there unless it's legally they screen you. You know what I mean? And the crime is literally in the basement.
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to somebody from Greenland the other day on the podcast. He said there's no fast food joints in Greenland. You can't go to McDonald's, Burger King, nothing in Greenland.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But it's mindless, Scott, what you said. You wouldn't think that what you're ingesting is what the animal ingested originally.
Of course.
You wouldn't think that.
Yeah.
No. So, Scott, with your training now, at being 60, do you gravitate on? Because I know for me right now, like I'm down to I know I have 4 back exercises that work for me. I feel it. It's tangible. I get a pump. It feels amazing. And then there's a shitload of other exercises I don't even do anymore because I get nothing out of it. Mm-hmm. Are you at that point? Because I'm a little younger than you, but.
Yes. I can still do anything that I want to do. When I was in my 20s, the only thing it just takes me a little longer to get there, meaning I have to, where I used to be able to jump on something right away. Now I just got to warm up. I have, knock wood, no injuries whatsoever. And as and I have to thank NASM for that and my exercise, science background, because, I looked at it, as, okay, where muscle inserts, where it attaches, what's fiber direction and what it does. And then you're adding, resistance to that muscle's motion. Too many times you see in the gym that people think they're working a body part, but they're not. And they're going against the laws of the joint, and I haven't done that. Maybe when I first started, when I was in my 20s, but I don't, and that's why I've been able to live pretty injury free, knock wood,
Give us an example of what you would see done wrong.
Bench press.
Explain. Good.
Okay. bench press is really not an exercise. It's really, I see it more as a sport. If the goal is to really work the pectoral, okay? I'll get a perfect example I'll give you is that, most people that actually gravitate towards a bench press before gyms were popular for people who look into alter body composition, put on muscle, were power lifters. But those power lifters had very short arms, very thick rib cages. So when they came down with the bar to the chest, they were at 90 degrees. Most people that go into the gym are not built like that, but they go bench press anyway. The other thing is the chest was put on your body so you can what's called do shoulder horizontal adduction, which is to make this arm to the center of your body, either with the shoulder joint or with the elbow and the shoulder joint. So you're adding to the center, shoulder adduction, right? So you lay down on a bench press, and now if I put oil on your hands, if you took the bar off, came down, as you come up, what would happen? Will your arms come in? No, they would go out. They would slide out. So you're not really adducting. Right. So a dumbbell, to me, is the best form of equipment to use. And why? Because you can dictate the path of the motion as well. You can move the angle slightly based on your anatomical structure. With a bar, it's your closed chain exercise, And
it locks you in too much.
Yes. Yeah. And you also want to make sure you're not coming really past 90 degrees on that press. Why? Because now that the tension is taken off the pec and now put onto the shoulder joint.
I think like what's missing is exactly what you're saying. What I mean by that is when I first got into training, the information that you're giving right now came from books like the NASM book and a lot of the bodybuilding magazines. And we had to learn from real knowledge, like real actual training, how the body worked according to the movement of what it was made for, right? Now you got all these influencers, and I think that's where everything goes downhill. They're just creating exercises, botching them all up. They don't know what they're doing, and it's creating havoc in the gym. People are getting hurt, and they're making a mishmash of what used to be great and just making it look like junk. That's what I call it, junk in the gym.
No, I cannot agree more. I was talking to a female who I just got as a client, and she was talking to me about working her glutes and how she was working with a trainer and he had her doing hip thrusts, which I have a big problem with. Okay,
I have a huge problem with it.
and but if Brett Contreras is the glute, the glute king, and she's like, I said, did your lower back hurt you? She goes, yeah. I go, well, yeah, your lumbar spine is going to take a lot of abuse. I said, plus the amount of pressure that's on your pelvis.
Yep.
With that bar, what you're having padding or not. And she goes, yeah. I said, if you know what the glutes do, they do hip extension, either with the knee or without the knee. Just so when anybody says, I do this, I go, well, what does that body part do? That's really what it's about. This is not my belief. It's just the way the body works.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like Vinny said, I think people are overcomplicating it now. Bend 30 degrees this way, use this machine to do this, and it's just out of control now, I think.
Look, what do you do for your biceps, Scott? You have a peak on your what do you do for your peaks? I do curls. It's called elbow flexion, okay? That's it. Elbow flexion.
Yeah, I know.
The only difference with that, I'm sorry to interrupt, is you put your shoulder in a different position, with your body, you create a different level of tension in a different part of the bicep. But the bicep contracts fully no matter what you do with a curl, period.
So I have a question for you with my own training, right? When I train chest, when I get to a certain rep range, if I add a little weight, I'm feeling it here because I have the anchors on my shoulders, right? So I was thinking of doing adding like if I'm in a Smith machine and put the safety pins up, where the bar would rest for a second and then press. So I'm feeling like I need to add something different to stimulate the chest.
Okay. Well, given you said when you go heavy, even though your chest can handle it, you feel it the pins, right?
But my heavy is like 135 pounds.
So that's fine. So instead of that, why don't you do a fly movement first, like a pec deck or a cable first, pre-exhaust the chest, so that 135 or whatever you're going to use is going to feel that much heavier, and then you only feel in the chest, you won't feel it in where the screws are.
I do. That's exactly what I do.
Okay, great.
But I'm trying to say, oh, maybe I should go a little heavier, and then once I go, because it's kind of like, I guess I'm going against my own advice, do what I can do, not what I can't do. Yeah. But then my ego kicks in a little bit. I'm like, I should be doing more than 135 pounds.
Does your chest have any eyes on it? It has no idea what weight you're using. It just knows that there's being tension put upon the pec, and you're recruiting as many fibers as possible.
You're absolutely right. You're 100% right. And that's why I need to talk about this sometimes, because I get lost in my own head, and I because I'm like, I could dumbbell row 125 pound dumbbell with one-arm rows, but then I'm struggling to get up 135 pounds on my chest. So it messes with me sometimes, because I like to train. And being going to be 57 this April, I would like to be 37 again, but it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Scott, what is your routine like? Are you a high rep, or what? What does your general routines look like?
Well, I train a 5-day split. That's what I do. A push pull leg, which I absolutely love.
Talk us through that.
So Monday or day one is push. It's chest, shoulders, tries. Tuesday is pull, which is back and buys, but that's my I would call it my heavy back day, where there's a lot of rowing and deadlifts. Okay. Wednesday is off because, again, that heavy back day, and that's one of the other things. People don't rest enough.
Yep.
I'm like, you're not going to progress. You grow and recover when you rest, not when you're training.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, and they don't listen. I go, do you think you're not going to come to the gym if you take a day off? You're getting out of that routine. So then Wednesday is off. Thursday is push day number 2, which is a little bit more shoulder, focused. Friday is legs, and Saturday is pull day number 2, and Sunday's off.
So you're doing legs once a week.
I got to tell you, I couldn't do more than once a week.
Yeah, no, I know.
But I will tell you that on my back day, when I'm deadlifting, I don't deadlift like a power lifter. I'm sitting when I'm pulling. I'm getting a lot of glute and a lot of hamstring. Like the next day, my legs are fatigued because I am down in that squatted position, pulling from there, and my back does not. I don't feel anything in my lower back. Think about if you can picture it. I'm down in that, and I also do deficit deadlifts. That's what I do. So I'm standing higher than the bar is.
Gotcha.
Scott, what's your thought? Sorry, what's your thought on fasted cardio, or do you believe in fasted cardio?
Let's talk about the public. You do cardio when you're able to do it. You know what I mean? Just get it done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
There's a minuscule, benefit. But if most people go to work, so are you going to get up, do fasted cardio, have your meal, then go to work, come back, and then train? No, it's not realistic.
Okay.
I hate fast cardio. I hate it. Can't do it. It makes me miserable. I'm tired.
Now, people look at these full-time bodybuilders, and again, all accolades to them, but they have the ability to do that, and that's okay.
Yep.
So real quick, again, just recap for your split. You do push on Monday, pull on Tuesday,
rest Wednesday,
push again on Thursday,
legs
on Friday,
pull number 2 on Saturday.
Gotcha.
And pull number 2 is more rear delt focused because I do rear delts with back because it's in my back.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. No,
and I make sure that anybody that I train or that I work, rear delts are the first shoulder exercise that you do. Because 100%. Everybody has a muscular imbalance, even if they don't train, because we live in a forward world. So their anterior deltoid, although it's not developed, but in comparison to the rear deltoid, there's nothing functioning in life that you use a rear deltoid with.
Well, usually everyone forgets it too. They don't incorporate it in the workout.
Can't see it. And most people sit in a desk all day, so they're already flexed. Their anterior deltoid is being flexed forward by looking at a computer, Yep. And the other thing, if you want this to go off on that, is they sit at a desk in a chair all day, and then they're pitched forward, and they're saying, my back's bothering me. Well, the back's not bothering them. They're sitting in that position. They have tight hips, tight hamstrings, and they can't even activate their glutes.
Let's go back to nutrition for 1 second.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on oatmeal?
I have a lot of clients that eat oatmeal, but I have some clients that it just doesn't operate good in their system,
In what way do you say it doesn't?
They feel bloated a lot from it.
And what do you think about adding like pineapple to your first meal of the day, or some blueberries?
That's fine. Like pineapple has bromelain, which is going to help digestion.
And if somebody has fruit in their diet, do you keep that in when they start to get into contest phase?
Yeah, as long as they're staying lean. Yeah.
No, because it's really difficult talking to a lot of people. They think like fruit is really bad for you when you start training for a contest, and what they think that needs to be removed.
But also when you're having it, you're not going to have a bunch of pineapple or watermelon before you go to bed. That's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know that, but there's a lot of people who have different views today, and it's difficult to talk to people who have been in this for a year or two, and they believe that their way is the only way. And like, hey, look, I've been doing this for 40 years, and I wouldn't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, why are you being so stubborn? And they're like, why are you being so stubborn? And I'm like, I gotta walk away. Yeah.
Scott, in today's society, everybody wants it here and now. Okay. If someone is to start a diet program, a training program, what do you generally recommend the longevity before they make that change?
I'm not sure if I follow your question specifically.
So do you put somebody on a program, let's say for 60 days, 90 days before you make a tweak to it? Or like
no. As the body changes and adapts, the prescription has to change.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yep.
So when I work with people, I just don't do the quote unquote diet. There are 4 pillars: food, cardio, supplementation, resistance training. And I individualize those 4 and then manipulate them over time. One doesn't work without the other,
Yep.
What is a staple in your diet for, I'll say, over-the-counter supplementation? Your fish oils, what do you generally use yourself?
Okay. What everybody's core, because again, everybody's disposable income is different.
Yep.
A really good multivitamin,
Okay.
vitamin D, and a good fish oil. Those are your 3 cores,
And why do you say vitamin D?
because it has to do with immune and as well as proper hormone function. And we all don't have enough in our bodies. When I take a look at people's blood work, they go, I'm in the normal range. It's between 30 and 100. I'm 32. I go, no, not in my world. Because when we talk about ranges with blood work, I want you in the optimal range, not in the normal range. Because on the bell curve, what do you want to get, a 62 on the exam, or you want a 98,
And what about vitamin C?
If there's a lack of it, I mean, I don't know if people are really lacking it. I think it's a great antioxidant. I think it's a good immune booster as well. But again, it gets back to disposable income as well, and also compliance. When you work with somebody who really hasn't been eating right, they're not training consistently, and then you throw supplements in there, that's a lot to take all at once,
Yeah.
So you got to think about compliance, And Vinny, we're in this world, so we'll do whatever it takes and continue to do it. This is so new to a lot of people,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, I feel like there's so much information that it's so confusing today, and people don't know where to start. That's the biggest thing. They don't know where to start, and they never really get off the ground and being consistent. That's the biggest thing, being consistent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so when I work with somebody, it's a minimum of 3 months, or else I will not work with you. It's not worth my time, and it's not worth your time and your money, you know?
Yeah. So as we're winding down here, I can't believe how fast this went.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to do this again. We got to get you on again. Tell everybody where they can reach you. Look for you on Instagram, Facebook.
On Instagram, it's IFBB Pro _ Scotty Apex. My website is scottythebodymechanic.com.
All right, cool. And is there anything on the horizon when you're thinking of anything to do for this year?
No, but right now I'm really working with I'm involved in a really exciting company that's going to help me, take things even to a more advanced level with clients. Because I can make every single client get blood work, and it's been really challenging. So I'm working with a company that I'm really heavily involved with called Integrated Wellness, which is an anti-aging, regenerative, a company that just deals with all aspects of people's longevity when it comes to whether it be using peptides to help things out, whether it be hormones, whether it be supplements. And blood work is extremely difficult for me to get people to get a hormone panel, to be quite honest. They can get it. So we're working with a company called Tribe that it's sent to your house. You do your blood work at your own house and send it back.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
Where are they located?
I'm not sure where they're located, but we send the kit right out to you, and you put it right on your arm, and you press a button with which is a little bit of a needle. The test tube's connected to it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And the other thing is, we're working on is what continuous glucose monitors are, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's only really available. It measures your blood sugar literally all day long from what's it's an apparatus that's on your arm, and it communicates with your phone. And I'm able to, as a trainer, be able to have a dashboard to monitor your blood sugar, so I can tell what foods are actually causing a rise in blood sugar. But continuous glucose monitors are really only available to the diabetic population.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's a company that we're negotiating with to actually work with the active population, because the crux of a lot of people's problems is blood sugar.
Yeah.
Really, really is. And until they can understand how foods are affecting their blood sugar, and even lack of sleep, stress affects blood sugar.
Yeah.
When I talk about there are 4 pillars: food, cardio, supplementation, resistance training. There's 3 other things that are really important for overall wellness: sleep, for recovery, stress, and then human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 nobody really talks about, but they're important.
So how does human interaction take place?
Think about what happened when they shut the country down. People were isolated. They became depressed and withdrawn. It's when people interact, like we are right now, or specifically more in person, it releases chemicals in the brain that give you an overall feeling of wellness. Your mood is elevated. You're happier.
Right.
We are social people. We're made to interact. But what the problem is now is, given technology, we're interacting less and less.
Right.
And it's a problem, but nobody's really identifying it. But it's a problem that's affecting other things in people's lives, their wellness.
Interesting.
So, Scott, the blood panel that you were mentioning, is that available now, or it's coming to the market?
Yes. Yeah. Someone contacts me, I can put. We have people from Integrated Nails will call you and set you up on it. Yep, it'll be set right to your house.
Excellent.
Cool.
Yeah, anything else? You got a lot of things in the hopper here. Anything else?
That's it for right now. And I know Vinny was asking, when's my next show? And you know what it was? I got 4 pro cards in July. My goal was to turn pro. I don't know if I have. I don't know if I have like that deep desire to compete as a pro. You know what I mean?
Well, remember, there are shows that have 16 over.
Yeah, I know. There's one in September in Daytona. There's a Masters Pro there. I've looked at it already.
I know you have. That's all good, man.
Yeah.
But this has been excellent. It's been great. And we got to get you back on, talk a little more technical about nutrition.
I honestly, the truth is, like, I'm like, wow, it's done already. We just kind of scratched the surface, you know?
We didn't even scratch the surface.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you on again. And thank you. This was great.
Vinny, good to see you as usual. Sean, it was really a nice pleasure to meet you.
Definitely. I know Eric's probably watching this now. If not, he's going to watch it in the morning here.
Yeah.
But Scott, it's been a pleasure. Continued success to you. As Vinny said, we'll get you back on and maybe we can get like a Q&A ahead of the time.
Sure.
Everybody listening and watching, make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Good night, guys.
Good night.